Yeah, that makes,
And
yeah,
it goes down to
be
to
good.
the house and what's his name? And they changed it all the way.
I'll just kind of
The
hold,
EP
I'll
told
just
me
I'll
to
say
do
something.
this,
Okay, I'll do
And
it.
it goes back and forth. That's the reason why
You ever hear anything from the state on that payoff yet?
bridges are roads.
Good evening and welcome to the Glasgow City Council meeting for this Monday night. Let's stand and have our pledge to the flag.
To the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing. Councilman Norris will lead us in our invocation.
Would you pray with me, please? In this moment, Lord, we acknowledge you as the leader of our lives, the leader of our country. We have wandered away from you, and it's shameful. We've replaced things for your holiness. Forgive us, Lord. Tonight we come excited about the work that's to be done, the people that we love here in Glasgow, the workers. We thank you, Lord, for the stamp of approval you've given on our life through Jesus. We're happy about that, and it gives us hope for tomorrow. Bless this meeting tonight with your approval in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ready to be seated. I'll ask our city clerk, Danielle Cashin, to call the roll.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes, ma'am.
Trigg,
Yes, ma'am.
Norris,
Hello.
Shoemaker, Neal,
Here.
Wilkinson,
Here.
Bunnell,
Present.
Burris,
Here.
Lowry.
Here.
All right, we have 100% attendance. We appreciate you all being here and taking care of our business at hand here for the city of Glasgow tonight. First thing you got in the packet back on Thursday, the proposed agenda for us to abide by tonight. I will entertain a motion that we continue the meeting operating under that agenda.
Motion.
Benil.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, from Ms. Kirkpatrick. Any discussion? Then all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will proceed with the agenda as it was presented to you last Thursday. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our council meeting back on March the 10th. I will entertain a motion that we approve those minutes and enter them into the record.
Motion.
From Councilman Neal, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kirkpatrick. And is there any discussion on any of the contents of those minutes, rather? If not, then all in favor of putting those in the record indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign. Okay, the minutes are now in the record books. We are going to begin tonight with a presentation. We have a special guest here tonight with us because we have so many things going on in joint, cohorts with our state highway department that I'm going to call to the podium up here Joe Plunk. He's well known, well respected around here. He's the kind of guy that you can talk to. He's the kind of guy that you always know where you stand with him. And we want to know where we stand, Joe Plunk, with all the various projects that we have on the drawing board that are underway, the ones that we've yet to get started, and the ones that we're trying to get finished. So let's welcome Joe Plunk, the Chief District Number 3 Engineer for the Kentucky Highway Department.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here and to share with you some good news. It's not much of a presentation. I don't have anything to hand to you. I don't have any displays, but I'm going to share with you what I shared with fiscal court last week, and a lot of this is within the city limits, so I want you to be aware of it. I want you to ask questions if you have questions. So we're going to, first of all, I just want to express appreciation for our crews, just like you are very proud of your public works folks who worked so diligently through a very difficult winter and 2 rounds of flooding, and I know you're proud of your folks just like I am of ours. So even though we're the state highway department, we have people that work out there on Calvary Drive, and they're Glasgow, Barron Countyans just like you. So they're proud of their community, and they want to do what's best for the community. So I just wanted to start with that. And next up, I'll mention that resurfacing, this is just routine maintenance that we're going to be opening bids in the next couple of months to resurface South Green Street. So that'll be from 31E up to the square, not including the square, which I'll touch on next. But South Green will be part of our resurfacing. The contractor will have until the end of the summer, or usually around November 1st. We try to get all of our resurfacing done by that point. So I know there'll be a lot of folks happy to hear that. Speaking of the square will be resurfaced next year, 2026, and preceding our resurfacing, we're going to do something a little bit unique. We're going to, we've already contracted with a consultant to do a scoping study. We're going to be looking at, we're going to be brainstorming, what if we really re-envisioned the square? So right now we have 2 lanes that go around, counterclockwise around the square. And maybe we end up resurfacing the square and painting it all the same way with the same traffic patterns. But maybe we don't. Maybe, and with your input and with citizens of Glasgow, maybe we make a change. So we're going to be looking at changing to a 2-way street, making Main Street the main movement so that you don't have to go all the way around the square. Maybe changing some of the parking, changing some of the pedestrian crosswalks. We don't know what that's going to look like. Right now, we're just doing our traffic counts. You've probably seen some tubes around the square. That's counting traffic, pulling data, and there will be a public meeting in a few months. We're just getting off the ground with this. But that way, before we go out there and resurface it all and change it all with paint, we want to know that we're doing the right thing to make the square the most efficient from a traffic and pedestrian safety standpoint as possible. So stay tuned, more to come on that. As far as our highway plan projects, and just a little bit of a reminder, the highway plan is our 2-year budget. So the legislature passes the highway plan, and the governor, also approves that, and so it's a joint effort between the legislative branch and the executive branch. And those are our marching orders for 2 years. And the legislature opens the budget every 2 years on the even year. So 2024, last year, was the budget that we're operating in. We're halfway to the next budget cycle. And right now, within the budget cycle, we have several capital plan projects that are within Glasgow. So I'll name a few. The first one is Happy Valley Road to Cave City. Now, I realize most of that project is outside of the city limits, but this is going to be modernizing the route to Cave City that provides a much safer corridor. Passing lanes, turning lanes. It's not going to be a 4-lane road, but it's going to operate like a 4-lane road, because when you build up a long queue when you're behind slow-moving traffic, now you're going to have opportunities to pass. Right now we have a couple of short passing lanes, but this will be a continuous passing lanes alternating northbound, southbound, all the way to Cave City. The right-of-way is all acquired, and utilities, right now Farmers Rural Electric is working with us to move poles. We should be opening bids in June. So we'll start that construction later this year, all the way through next year, but that's going to be a major improvement in the Glasgow area. Next up, Trojan Trail at the intersection of Roseville Road. This was a project that was a congressional earmark. We got some funding to make improvements to the intersection, and we had a public meeting in October. Many of you may have come to that meeting. This will be a roundabout, but not just the roundabout. This will be replacing the bridge on Roseville Road to make it a wider bridge, because right now it's a bit of a pinch point. You all know that as you come down the hill. So a new bridge and a modern, innovative intersection there so that you don't have to wait. It also slows traffic down, because that's the biggest concern we have with safety is folks are coming from out in the county, they're entering town. You also have sidewalks there along Roseville Road, and this is a good way to manage speeds as they're coming into town. So it'll be a lot safer for school traffic and school buses. The design is largely finished, and this was done by hometown American engineers here in Glasgow. Our next steps will be moving into a right-of-way phase. We've got some environmental work to do, don't get me wrong, but we'll be moving into a right-of-way phase to start acquiring properties at those corners and then on up where the bridge is. So we're not close to construction. Best case would be next year, more likely 2027. We're going to need construction funds in the next budget cycle, but we do have funds now to move into a right-of-way phase. So you'll see more about that later this year. The next project is Cleveland Avenue, and I know there's a lot of interest about this project from 31E out to Donnelly and Industrial Drive and the soccer complex. We're out there buying right-of-way now. We have 37 of the 70 parcels that we're acquiring frontage, in some cases quite a bit of right-of-way from folks. 37 offers made. We've signed many of those folks, signed the deed, so we own some of those right-of-way parcels. It's going to take us throughout this calendar year to finish that right-of-way project, and then that we'll be moving utilities, working with Glasgow Water in particular. They're going to be a big player on that corridor. And the best case will be finishing the utilities in 26 and construction in 27. So we're still a few years away on Cleveland Avenue. But we've worked with representatives here. We know that you have interest in what's going on in Cleveland Avenue. And so anytime you have questions about, please don't hesitate, because we want to work with you so that your project joins ours seamlessly. The next project is on the Cumberland Expressway at exit 11. That's 31E. There's some funding in the highway plan that looks at re-envisioning that interchange. So right now we have a lot of intersections. You have 2 ramps, Trojan Trail and Aberdeen, that are real close together. It's not very efficient with traffic flow. There have been crashes, 54 crashes in a 3-year period, mostly rear-end crashes that you would anticipate seeing at intersections. But we have a consultant that's hired, and we're going to be looking at, again, re-envisioning that interchange. And come with me sometime to Henderson. I want to show you what they did in Henderson with a very similar situation where they have a middle school on one side of the interchange, a high school on the other side of the interchange, and they have a series of roundabouts. They pull the traffic signals out. Traffic flows very well and very safe because, again, a way of managing speeds as you're coming in. Plus, another beautiful thing about roundabouts is you can landscape roundabouts. If you've seen the one in Bowling Green, their one at WKU, you know there's the gateway sign, landscaping and irrigation, and they've really made it beautiful. And what a beautiful way to enter Glasgow than some sort of aesthetic treatment that we would do there at the interchange. So, you know, we're not set on the roundabouts. I'm just throwing out ideas. There'll be other ideas that will be part of that study. But by later this year, we'll have some public forums and have an opportunity for some public feedback. The next project, it's just two more. I don't want to overstay my welcome, but I've got two more, and they're probably the ones you have the most questions about. Columbia Avenue and then Water Street. So Water Street, the structure, the masonry arch structure, has been closed for some time, and it is a funded project, but unfortunately the right-of-way and utility funds weren't in this two-year budget cycle. So we're kind of stuck right now. Until we get to the next budget phase, a year from now, when the legislature and the governor pass the next budget, hopefully there'll be funding to start acquiring the easements and the right-of-way around Water Street. Because essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take that structure out. Ray Street will have to be closed for several months when this happens. The building, I'll refer to it as the Dr. Modi building that still sits out over Water Street. It will remain. They're constructed at two different times. They're mutually exclusive structures, so we can take out the structure under Ray Street and Dr. Modi's building will still remain. We will rebuild our structure, and it will be built with con-span structures. What that means is they're prefabricated concrete structures that look like an arch. So there'll be an arch shape, and they'll have a treatment on the face of the walls that make it look like stone. So to try to preserve that historical feature of Water Street. Again, there's gas lines and water lines that run through Ray Street, so all that has to be dealt with. It's not easy lift, but we are excited to get it done. We've been working, you know, lots of things going on with the design and some environmental, because it does contribute to the historical nature of downtown Glasgow. So we've been working with Historical Society and others as they've contributed to what that final design needs to look like, and now we just wait for money. So I wish that it had been in this budget cycle, but we're hopeful that it'll be in the next budget cycle so we can move forward. And then the last project is Columbia Avenue, and even though you're not seeing a lot happening, there is a lot happening behind the scenes. So this Columbia Avenue is not one where we just go out and we add an inch of asphalt like we're going to do on South Green. Columbia Avenue is a complete rebuild, a rehabilitation of the pavement. Right now you have concrete pavement, and that concrete pavement is undermined. It has subsurface issues that have to be dealt with. It has very poor drainage. A lot of those storm sewer boxes that are there along the curb have failed. Water is undermining the road, and that's why you see those concrete slabs that are consolidating at different depths, so you get all the bumps and the potholes between the concrete slabs. I just say that to say that if this was as simple as going out and paving an inch of asphalt, we would have done that years ago. This is a $7 million project for a mile and a half of a pavement redo. Okay, so again, resurfacing would have been about $250,000. This will be $7 million of going in, ripping out all of the concrete pavement, including the subgrade, rebuilding all the curb and the entrances and the sidewalk and the storm sewer so that you have proper drainage so we don't have to deal with this for generations to come. And from Front Street to Davis Street, that's where the biggest reconstruct is going to be, and from Davis Street to Glasgow High School will be, you know, fewer drainage boxes because that is a newer pavement. But best case scenario will be 2026 before that's done. And more likely after, because we're still going to have to deal with property owners. Again, Glasgow Water has water and sewer in the pavement that's going to have to be dealt with. But I want to assure you that we are working on this. We get a lot of complaints. I know you do too. weekly we get complaints about Columbia Avenue. I'm not asking for sympathy because I know you get a lot more, but I just don't want it to be lost that we're not working on this. This is very high and urgent matter for us. So that's really it as far as the list of projects that I wanted to share with you, but open to any questions that you might have.
Joe, I have one question. On the widening project for Happy Valley Road, is there any way that we can get sidewalks on that going from, the bypass out to the outer loop?
Oh, okay. So Happy Valley, the reconstruction in the highway plan is from the outer loop to Cave City. So unfortunately, it doesn't include the section that you're describing. But to your question, so with that project, the answer is no, because it's beyond the scope of the project. There's not really a mechanism to fund sidewalks just through the highway plan, but there are opportunities for local governments to apply for grants. And Glasgow has been very successful with that in other areas like Trojan Trail.
Would the state be willing to work with us on it? Because we have a lot of pedestrians walking that now, and it's not safe, in my opinion.
I agree, yes.
And so would the state be willing to work with us in acquiring grants to make sure that we can do sidewalks? Because we want to make it safe. We got, again, I see a lot of people walking there and a lot of development going out that way. And so with no sidewalks, they've got no way to walk through there.
I totally agree with you on that. As far as what we can do, I mean, we can help guide you into the application. It's not up to me, so the application is competitive. There's a small pot of money for these type of projects that a lot of communities apply for. I will do my part to advocate for you for those, for your application, but I can't make a guarantee that it'll get funded. It's beyond what I could do.
Thank you.
Other questions for Joe?
You said 26 on Columbia Avenue. Is that when should you start expecting roads being towards with three schools out there? Being an ex-school person, I know that's going to affect traffic and buses and pickup times and slow things down probably. And I'm not in the school system anymore, but just wondering when really that construction would take part, or when roads would start being ripped and torn.
That's been a big part of our discussion, is the maintenance of traffic. So regardless of when it is, whether it's 26, 27, whenever it is, we want to maintain traffic the best we can. Of course, luckily, there are 3 lanes of traffic, so probably what will happen is we'll remove 2 lanes. We'll work in an area where there's 2 lanes, because you really can't work in the middle and have traffic going on both sides. It's not safe, and you can't access it with equipment. So we'll probably work on one side or the other and maintain a single lane of traffic through. And then when we're finished, we swap to the other side, and then we'll maintain 2 lanes at that point. So it will be a couple of months of difficulty, and we will try our best to schedule it around summertime when school is out of session, and that would be the goal, of course.
And I may be speaking my age, but the last time you all redid Columbia Avenue, you made it a one-way loop all the way around. So if you pulled out of your neighborhood, you couldn't go left. You had to go right and go to the square and go back around by the hospital to come around. Is that the same process most likely you'll use again?
Yes, so that predates me, but what I understand is when we were removing concrete slabs one at a time, we were repairing those. This was around 2010, 2012, something like that. It will be the same. It will be a one-way, like you said, a loop using the route you just described.
We live off of Columbia Avenue, so I just remember trying to get to Glasgow High School, you needed to go all the way back around town.
Yes, that's right.
I'm a dinosaur.
No, I don't think that at all, no. It's good that you have that memory.
The gigglers behind you do.
Cleveland Avenue, 1297. Will you be real specific on where the sidewalk will start from the bypass, and specifically how far out 1297 the sidewalks will go? What structure will it go to?
Okay, so it's always easier to build new with sidewalk than it is to retrofit. So that's why now we have an opportunity to reconstruct Cleveland Avenue. And on the inbound side will be a sidewalk coming from Industrial Donnelly toward 31E. On the outbound side will be a multi-use path. So this will be 6 or 8 feet, I forget which, but it'll be a path that will accommodate bicycles, like the Trojan Trail, essentially, what was constructed a few years ago. And that will run from 31E. I'll have to get back with you exactly where it ends, which street, because I don't want to mislead you, but it goes pretty well to the end of the project.
Sure. I was thinking about that soccer complex out there where we could have some youngsters taking the sidewalk to soccer practice or something. I don't know if it's going to go that far or not.
Yes. Yes, lots of discussion about pedestrian access. Obviously, with Red Cross School, the soccer complex, that was the goal, was to make a better connection for pedestrians.
Thank you.
And that development there, that would make that a 3-lane, correct? Cleveland Avenue would become 3 lanes.
3 lanes. 3 lanes with curb, gutter, and sidewalk. So it'll be an urban roadway, and you know, there'll be so anywhere you turn in there, you'll have a center turn lane so that a left turner can move into that center lane. And I know that there'll be you know, other development like the city has discussed, and we'll accommodate that entrance when we build it.
Good responses. Other questions?
Nothing else, at least, that even if I give you an answer that you don't like, I am responsive. So if any of you have questions, I don't have all your contact info, but of course through April or the mayor, just reach out to me and I'll get you an answer as soon as I can.
Sure.
Thank you.
He is very responsive. Go ahead, Randy.
Last question, just like on railroads that are on state roads, and, you know, you get the bump, is that yours? The state takes care of that? I know probably federally, the railroads are probably funded. I just wonder how the money works on fixing those bumpy
Yeah,
railroads.
so thankfully they're not ours. When the railroad crossing on West Main was reconstructed 2017-18 with Glasgow Railroad Company, that's their track and their property. And they often remind us they were there first, right? The track was there in the 1800s. The roads didn't come until much later. So again, there are grants for railroad companies for, I forget, Class 1 railroad companies that they can apply to get funding for safety improvements, like, you know, whistles and gates like they got out on State Quarry Road near Park City, and also for the surface itself. So, no, we try to accommodate, but I can give you an example where we were trying to patch a pothole out there in one of the tracks, and we were run off by railroad personnel. So they're very protective of their property. But is there one in particular?
No, well, there was. I think it's got smooth, but before I was on here, but just wondered how that, I knew the federal part fit in, but I didn't know how that meshed together, how you worked, or if you worked together. It sounds like y'all step out of the way and let somebody else take care of that problem.
We try. I hope they would say the same, but we worked with the local rail company here to make that improvement on West Main.
All right. Very good
Thanks a lot.
discussion. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. Let's continue with, actually, we're going to go go over some old business right now. Rich?
Hey, Royce, before we get into this next item, I'm going to recuse myself and to remove any conflict of interest on this next item.
Okay.
Okay, the first item is a municipal order. This would appoint Bobby Bunnell, actually reappoint Bobby Bunnell to the Glasgow Municipal Airport Board. This appointment is for a 4-year term expiring March 31, 2029, adopted today's date.
All right. You have heard the municipal order reappointing Bobby Bunnell to the Airport Board. I will entertain a motion that we approve that order.
Motion, Lowry.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Neal? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Order is approved.
Wait till Councilman Bunnell returns.
Okay, all right.
Okay, the next item is another municipal order. This reappoints Andrea Gentry to the Glasgow Economic Development Loan Fund Board. It's a 2-year term expiring March 31, 2027.
All right, you have heard the reading of this order. I will entertain a motion that we put it on the floor for a vote.
Motion, Benel.
Okay, from Councilman Bonnell, a second by Councilman Neal. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The order is approved.
Next item is municipal order reappointing Janice Turner to the Joint City-County Planning Commission and to the Historic Preservation Commission to serve as a joint City-County Planning Commission representative. This appointment is a 2-year term expiring March 31, 2027.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the order. I will entertain a motion that we bring it up to the floor for a vote.
Motion, Lowry.
Is there a second?
Second, Norris.
Councilman Norris, okay, all right. So, any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. All right, the order is approved, and we have another one, Rich.
This is a municipal order reappointing Jane Baker to the Historic Preservation Committee. The appointment is a 2-year term expiring March 31, 2027.
And likewise, I will entertain a motion that we vote on this municipal order to appoint Ms. Baker, reappoint Ms. Baker to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Benel.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The order is approved.
Next item is a second reading of an ordinance establishing an entertainment destination center. And again, I'll be reading from a summary. This ordinance establishes certain definitions to be used in enforcing the ordinance, such as common area, temporary or non-permanent sales area, entertainment destination center, and the phrase within or adjacent to the entertainment destination center. The ordinance also establishes an entertainment destination center based on the attached graphic. It authorizes the city to apply for an entertainment destination center license with the Kentucky ABC. It establishes the basic guidelines for alcohol within the entertainment destination center, such as sales of alcohol are permitted at non-permanent locations within the entertainment destination center common areas, and allows alcohol consumption in the entertainment destination center common areas and other licensed premises. During special events and from the hours of, or the days Thursday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. The ordinance authorizes the executive branch to establish additional rules and regulations pertaining to the entertainment destination center activities, but the entertainment destination center footprint cannot be modified without legislative action. This ordinance will not become effective any earlier than July 1 of 2027.
Okay, you've heard the second reading of this ordinance.
I'm sorry, Mayor, July 1, 2025.
Okay.
You've heard the second reading of the ordinance, and at this point, I will entertain a motion that we bring the second reading of this to the entire body.
Motion.
From Councilman Neal. Second.
Second, Benel.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, we have it on the floor for discussion.
Hey, Royce, could we have Police Chief Howard come to the podium and talk to us a little bit about the policing on this and how's the interpretation of the guidelines that we've stated here, how they'll be impacted?
Certainly, he is available right there.
Council, we've looked at it. I don't think anything's going to change from what it is now. I think the establishments will be pretty good about policing themselves because it's a benefit to them. If there's a special event going on downtown, the police department's going to be there anyway, and we can, respond to calls. We patrol the downtown square on a regular basis, and it's just pretty much like anything else. There's only 10% of the population that creates the problem. So I think it's a good thing for downtown. I don't think it's going to put an extra burden on the police department. And if it does, it can always come back to council and you can revoke the entertainment district. But right now, I don't see it as a big issue.
And the hours that we've laid out for this in this ordinance, they seem reasonable?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, other discussion while it's up for the discussion part of the process? There being none, this requires a roll call vote, so we'll ask Clerk Cashin to do a roll call vote on the second reading of this ordinance.
Lowry,
Yes.
Burris,
Yes.
Benel,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Norris,
No.
Trigg,
Yes.
Kirkpatrick. Yes.
Okay, so the second reading of this ordinance is passed. Very much. We've got some new business now to bring to the table. Rich, you want to talk about these rezoning ordinances?
We have a series of 3 rezoning ordinances, the first of which is rezoning the property located at 603 West Main Street containing .29 acres more or less from I-1, which is the light industrial district, to B2 general business district classification. It appearing that the owner and applicant 6B Holdings LLC has requested a zoning change for the property at 603 West Main Street, which contains .29 acres in the city of Glasgow, from I-1 to B2 classification. The schematic drawing of the property subject to rezoning is attached as Exhibit A. A trial-type due process hearing concerning this zoning change was held on February 18th of this year by the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, which resulted in a unanimous recommendation by the Commission that the property be rezoned from I-1 to B2. Copies of the findings and recommendations of the Commission have been forwarded to the Council and are hereby adopted by the Council and are attached to this ordinance as Exhibit B. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow as follows. Section 1, the findings and recommendations of the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, copies of which are attached as Exhibit B, are hereby approved in all respects. Section 2, the zoning for the property located at 603 West Main Street containing .29 acres more or less in the city is rezoned from I-1 to a B2 classification. The real property covered by this ordinance being more particularly described in Exhibit A. Section 3, all future development of this property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Council on December 30, 1991. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
Thank you, Rich. You have heard the reading of the proposed ordinance. You've had it in your packet to look over with a lot of good information. I will entertain a motion that we bring it up to the floor for consideration.
Motion, Benel.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
From Councilman Neal. So is there a discussion on this proposed ordinance?
Is this the property that's right there beside the water company?
Yes, it is. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The rezoning ordinance passes on first reading. Rich?
Second rezoning ordinance is for property located at 1573 Cleveland Avenue containing 160 acres more or less from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the PUD classification, which is the Planned Unit Development District. Owner applicant City of Glasgow has requested a zoning change for the property at 1573 Cleveland Avenue containing 160 acres more or less from an I-1 to a PUD classification. The schematic drawing for the property to be rezoned is attached as Exhibit A. A trial-type due process hearing concerning this zoning change was held on February 18th of this year by the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, resulting in a unanimous recommendation that the property be rezoned from I-1 to a PUD classification. Copies of the findings and recommendations of the Commission have been forwarded to the Council and are hereby adopted by the Council, attached as Exhibit B. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City as follows. Section 1, the findings and recommendations of the Commission, copies of which are attached as Exhibit B, are approved in all respects. Section 2, the zoning for the property at 1573 Cleveland Avenue, containing 160 acres more or less, is rezoned from I-1 to a PUD classification. The real property covered by the ordinance being described in Exhibit A. Section 3, all future development of the property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Council December 30, 1991. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
All right, you've heard the reading of the ordinance, and we, again, will ask you to make a motion if you want to consider voting on it, to get it up on the floor. Is there a motion that we consider this?
Motion, Lowry.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, we've got a motion and a second. Let's discuss it. Any discussion on this particular ordinance? All right, I don't hear any discussion, so I will ask all those in favor of passing this ordinance indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, the ordinance is approved.
Last zoning ordinance pertains to the property located at approximately 635 feet north of the North Jackson Highway and Hutcherson Road intersection, containing 12.8 acres more or less. This would be a zoning change from an R1 classification, low-density residential district, to a B2 general business district classification, to an ag district classification. It appearing that owner applicant Sam D. Dickinson has requested a zoning change for the property located approximately 635 feet north of the North Jackson Highway and Hutcherson Road intersection, containing 12.8 acres more or less in the city, from R1 and B2 classification to an agricultural district classification. A schematic drawing of the property to be rezoned is attached as Exhibit A. A trial-type due process hearing concerning this zoning change was held on February 18th of this year by the Commission, resulting in a unanimous recommendation that the property be rezoned from R1 and B2 to an ag district classification. Copies of the findings and recommendations of the Commission have been forwarded to the Council, are hereby adopted by the Council, and attached as Exhibit B. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City as follows. Section 1, the findings and recommendations of the Commission, copies of which are attached as Exhibit B, are section.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this rezoning? Discussion on this rezoning out on North Jackson?
I have one for Kevin.
You have what now?
I have one question.
Okay.
Normally, we're converting ag property over to residential and R/business. So this is a reverse of that process. So with this being in the city limits, what effect will that have on, say, the development of the other area? Since, you know, once before they had to come to us and ask to change this over to R1.
Right.
So what effect is that going to have?
Okay, so a couple of things. One, which is a binding, not a binding, it's a private restriction, private covenant, which we don't enforce, city government doesn't enforce, but there is a private restriction that the parcel that you have in front of you is restricted from access to country club estates. So Mr. Dickinson here has a potential buyer of the property and would like to divide the property. However, with only one access being on North Jackson Highway, and that's the 60-foot access strip that leads to the 12 acres that's behind the two homes out front. An ag exemption, which is a state statute, not a zoning classification, would allow an individual to subdivide the property into two parcels, being that they must be 5 acres in size and no smaller, and that they have an existing vehicular way. So I guess for the individuals that live adjacent to this, it being zoned R1 right now and partially B2, technically an individual could put a roadway in and put, you know, 12, let's see, there's 12 acres, 7,500 square. I mean, you're looking at potentially 30 to 40 lots if they could do it right now. With this being rezoned to an agricultural district, the minimum lot size in our ag zoning is 5 acres. Couldn't go below that. So right now you're looking at potentially just 2 lots that could be made out of that. So this gentleman has an agreement with a private buyer to purchase that for 2 lots to be created.
So then that individual can come back to us, is what I foresee. He'll come back to us and ask if he's subdivided, and we put it back to the same.
That's their prerogative, but now the state statute says that you have to at least wait a year. Once a rezoning has been approved or denied, unless you go through the appeal process to circuit court, you have a year that you have to wait before that can be brought back to the Planning Commission. So in theory, yes, in a year from now, that individual can bring that back to rezone it if he or she chooses. Doesn't necessarily mean that the Planning Commission just approves it just because you come. You still have to meet some state findings and state recommendations.
All right, so will changing it over to ag then allow the new owner to circumvent the restrictions they put from
No.
Country Club
No,
Estates?
those private restrictions are bound between that property and the adjacent property. Now, having said that, that's a private restriction that those individuals privately have to enforce. We will not enforce that. But it is wrote in that deed, and that language carries on to whoever purchases the property adjacent as well.
So there's only one ingress and egress to that property, and that's off North Jackson Highway?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this does not include going into golf course estates, none of that?
No, it will not. It's been expressly, if you look at our minutes, it was expressly written that there's a private statute or covenant that's between those properties, and it has to remain in that manner.
So, I mean, I'm just saying this. So he buys 5 lots in the backside of those, he buys 5 acres.
5 acres, yeah.
One of the lots is 5 acres. Now, I thought the minimum size, Country Club Estates was 1 acre or 1.5 or 2.
I'm sure. I know it's zoned R1 there. You know, I'm not sure exactly what the minimum lot size that they have there, but the minimum lot size in R1 is 10,500 square feet for a single family.
I just thought out there they had a larger restriction on the lot size, and the 5 acres would give you 5 lots on the backside.
Only if they rezone it, though. It being zoned agricultural right now, or what's proposed to be zoned agricultural, the minimum lot size is 5 acres. It cannot go lower than that unless a rezoning is applied. And they have to wait a full 12 months before they can even reapply for that. Even having said that, though, they still would have no access to Country Club Estates.
They still have the one drive-through, but they can still have houses if that road just went straight down through the middle of the property.
If it
and
was
split
rezoned.
Yes.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
That's all.
Yep.
All right, good discussion, good explanation too, Kevin, and I was at the meeting that the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this first, and it was a lot of detail. There's been a lot of work done on this, and good explanation. Thank you. Okay, so we have discussion. Now, I guess we'll call the question. All of those in favor of passing this ordinance indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed indicate by saying like sign. Okay, so the ordinance passes. Thank you very much. Good discussion. Okay, we got a couple of things to look at, Rich, from the standpoint of some resolutions.
Next item is a resolution for the city to make an application for a recycling grant administered through the Kentucky Pride Fund. Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow that grant writer April Russell shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application for the city for a grant in the amount of $159,180 administered through the Kentucky Pride Fund for recycling grant, which will be used, if received, for the purpose of purchasing a glass pulverizer system. This grant has an 80-20 match, with the in-kind match being $39,795. The total project amount is $198,975. Be it further resolved by the city that Mayor Royce is authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary to make the application for this grant.
This is a resolution to allow us to apply for this grant. This recycling pulverized glass, or whatever you call it, is kind of a neat invention, and I hope we get the grant, but I will entertain a motion that we approve applying for it.
Motion, Lowry.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, from Councilman Neal. Any discussion about this recycling grant application? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution passes.
Last item is a resolution for the city to make an application for a grant administered through the Kentucky Pride Fund Household Hazardous Waste Management. Be it hereby resolved by the city that grant writer April Russell shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application on behalf of the city for a grant in the amount of $15,000 administered through the Kentucky Pride Fund Household Hazardous Waste Management, which will be used, if received, for the purpose of funding the City of Glasgow hosting a Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day for the citizens of residents of Barron County. This is an 80-20 in-kind matching grant, and the applicant shall provide match funding for the total cost of the project, or $3,750 if received. The total amount of the project would be $18,750. Be it further resolved that Mayor Royce is authorized and directed to execute all documents necessary to make application for this grant.
You've heard the proposed resolution. I'll indicate a motion that we approve it.
Motion, Benel.
Is there a second?
Second.
From Councilman Neal. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The application for the grant is approved. Sort of on that the same line, these are really important grants that we have, but we also are in the middle of spring cleanup week that just started today, going to go through the 28th. April, did you told me something about you were going to get a tonnage number. So you got the king of tonnage back there.
So today we started the spring cleanup, and we took in from this city 15.43 tons and 28.58 from the county. And I always like to remind everybody, this is the 1 week that we take all that in from the citizens free. City pays for that and takes it in for everyone. And if you haven't gotten your stuff out, make sure it's out by 7 in the morning on your garbage day.
That's